Tshego,
Whoa.
Tshego, you made it.
But whoa.
Wow.
Sure, okay, let me.
Guys, Tshego finally made it. Tshego, jigisa camera. Jigisa screen. You made it. Wow.
Okay, hold on. To me?
Yes. You made it.
So I'm not sure if I should use my laptop or my phone.
Jigisa screen.
I'm looking.
You made it. Wow.
No, man.
Okay, hold on.
How do I rotate my screen?
Yes. Your screen is fine, darling. Just look at us. Look at us. Look at us, darling. You've made us wait for 1 hour. So
I am so sorry, guys. This is ridiculous. This is
wow.
crazy. This is absolutely unfathomable. Unfathomable. I'm so sorry.
Alright, so skwazi sintsi mo go wena. Welcome, welcome,
Heartfelt
welcome.
apologies, guys. This has been super stressful. Thank you, Tumi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Technology e go hlotse, but it's fine. We learn as we go.
My gosh. I'm trying to balance my phone. It keeps falling. It's fine. We can get started. No, that's not one. I'll just have to hold it. It's fine.
While Tshego sorts out her phone,
Let me
thank
get
you so
comfy.
much to everyone who's tuned in and tuned out and tuned in again. Thank you for your patience.
For an hour.
It's a first live interview for our darling guest. But as I said, we learn as we grow. And hopefully after this, she'll have many others, and she'll know exactly what to do. She's an executive producer of the award-winning web series, The Single Diaries of a Jozi Girl. She's an author. She is a script writer. She's a story editor. She's a mother.
Come on.
She's a daughter. She's an aunt. She's a friend. Her name is Tshego Monaisa. Tshego, finally. Like, you made me run up and down, and
I am so sorry to me.
But finally,
I'm so sorry to the viewers as
it.
well. Yeah, I made it. Thank you. Thank you for waiting, guys. I'm so sorry.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. My first question was warm, but I mean, with all the running around, we are warm. That is for sure.
We are very warm.
Like,
yeah,
I have no doubt that we are warm. And who would have thought, man, that we'd be all dressed up to go on the internet and then back into bed?
I know, right? It's beautiful. And the nice thing about this weave is hassle free.
We latlhela kwa fela. We latlhela kwa. So, you know, there was a lot of things that I wanted to ask you, but you know, since we are late, we're kind of you know, short with time. I'm just gonna go down to the gist of the matter. Okay. You know, our topic for tonight is vulnerability. Vulnerability. You know, but before we go into that, I just wanted to backtrack a little bit. So you were in corporate, ne? SABC, TV, and then you make the decision one day that you're just gonna leave everything and do your own thing.
Pretty much, with a 1-year-old.
Imagine. What was that like, and what led to that?
I think I've always wanted to be a storyteller and also like tell my own stories. So because I was trained as a script editor and script writer, working for broadcasters would have produced a conflict of interest if I had written in on any TV shows while working at SABC or ETV. So I had my production company, which was initially called Tshego Productions, but I couldn't produce any content because I was at SABC. And then I left SABC to go freelance. So it was the first time I endeavored to be a freelance writer. And it lasted about 6 months. And thank God I got the job at ETV. I didn't realize how difficult it was. So that was in 2010. And then I joined ETV in 2011, and then ultimately left again in 2015. And I think because of the training that I got at ETV, and that it's a commercial station, you know, so you deal with getting contracts to producers, everything like product placement, marketing, scripts, everything has to sort of make sense for the business. It equipped me to then get the tools to be able to be confident enough to run my own production company and of course be a scriptwriter as well. So the training that I got from ETV was phenomenal, and it gave me the confidence to just try and do it myself. But the reason behind why I is because, like I said, I wanted to develop and produce content that I had created and, you know, tell my own stories.
Was it easy?
No, it wasn't easy. Not at all. I mean, I left ETV in 2015. That first year was amazing because it was just like it was a fresh air, you know? It was like, this is what I've always wanted to do and everything. But the challenges came just because I didn't quite know what to expect. I had an idea of what it was like, but I didn't have a lived experience of be like. Running a business is never easy. Going after your purpose is never easy for the mere fact that you are taking on, you know, your purpose. The challenges have to come so that you can be strengthened, you know, so your will can be strengthened. It's almost as if you have to prove to yourself how much you want it. It's always so much easier to go back to corporate once you've made the leap, because corporate it's a safety net. You know, you have a guaranteed salary every month. Everything is guaranteed. You have office space. You know, I work from home because I work as a writer, which it's become an advantage now during lockdown. But it would have been an unnecessary expense to even have like an office space, you know what I mean? So you really have to measure everything against what you want your outcome to be. So when I go into production, I'll hire office space for like the pre-production phase, which can be anything from about a week to about 2 or 3 weeks. And then we're on set shooting anyway, and then we go to edit, and the editors there really is no need to have all the stuff that you would have in an office that make it comfortable. You know, you just have to sort of figure out what works for you. But like I said earlier,
Was there pressure to kind of look as though you've got it all together? Because now you'd left your cushion, which is that comfortable job, with you know, a definite salary at the end of the month. So now, was there pressure that, you know, to make it look like you've got it all together, so people are not like, yeah, Unaya guy, what was she thinking? I got mmereko le star sengwana. You know. So like, did you have to look like, I know I've got this, or were you like honest? All right, guys, I go rough, but ke happy with my decision.
I mean, I didn't put any pressure on myself to look a particular kind of way or to answer to anybody. And I'm very strong-willed in the sense that once I've decided on what I want to do, it's very hard to convince me otherwise. Because for me to get to the process of making that decision involves a lot of introspection. It involves a lot of thinking. I'm an overthinker as it is. So I weigh up all my options, you know. But I think that ultimately it was a decision that I made for myself. I didn't make it for anybody else. It didn't matter if people thought it was working out for me or not. That's not the reason why I decided to go the freelance independent route. I did it for myself. So I don't really answer or subscribe to pressure. But it did have peaks and valleys. Like it wasn't a straight line, you know? And I think that initially it was a little bit tricky for producers that I had commissioned as a commissioning editor to then now start writing on their productions, because it was almost like the shoes on the other foot, you know. But even then, like if I had ever succumbed to the thought of, oh, this is where I should be, this is what I should be doing, it would have done me in mentally, because for me the pressure is on me to provide for my family. Like I said, my son was one year when I left ETV, so I didn't take on anybody else's pressure that they would have put on me. I had enough pressure on myself to provide, you know, to keep my son in school, to keep a roof above our heads. So I didn't subscribe to anybody else putting pressure on me, because the pressure for me to do it, I'd already put on myself. So I didn't need anybody's additional pressure for whatever their reasons are, because people also put pressure on you for their own reasons, you know, to see you stumble, to see you sweat. Never let them sweat, baby girl. You can sweat in your bedroom, but never let them sweat. Never let them see
Never
you
let
sweat.
them see you sweat, girl.
Nah.
Did you ever regret your decision?
Yes, I'll never forget this moment. It was May 2016, was a year after I left. So Leanna was born in April 2014. I left ETV in July 2015. In May 2016, I had to start looking for work, you know. I was like, I can't sustain myself financially without getting like a job on a long running series, on a soapy. Soapies are more sustainable because you get a salary every month. Excuse me, you do the work and they pay you. Oh, sorry, as opposed to like a drama, which has 13 episodes. So it can be quite sporadic. And May 2016, I woke up in the middle of the night. I hadn't actually slept, ne? Leona was sleeping in the bed. And I stood up. I'd been sick for about 2 weeks. And you know, when you're sick, you're just feeling down and you're just like, you know, trying to feel better. And I was like, did I make a mistake? Is this the route that I should have taken? And I kid you not, I literally heard the Holy Spirit said, when you are weak, I will be strong. And that anxiety, same time, the anxiety fled from me. The sickness that I felt in my body fled from me. And I was like, okay, an attack. You know, it was a spiritual attack that was manifesting physically. And, you know, to combat spiritual attacks, you need to speak the word of God. And because when you are weak, I will be strong is a word from God. It's in the Bible. Immediately that thing fled. And that was the first and last time that I thought I'd made a mistake. And I just realized how much power I have in fighting any doubt or any regret with the word of God. And that really, really strengthened me. I mean, that was in 2016. 2017, I faced financial challenges. And even then, I didn't think of quitting because my relationship with God was strengthened through me taking a leap of faith, So he really strengthened me in my inner man to be able to face trials, financial trials, mental trials. I mean, I had recurring depressive cycles every year from 2010, So I learned to live with it. I was like, okay, I know my triggers. I know what to do in response to these cycles that come every year. I didn't know when they would come, but when they came, I was able to see, oh, it's this thing, it's this depression, that cycle that comes every year. Let me make sure there's enough light in the house. Let me make sure it smells good, it looks good. Those were how my senses need to respond well, to my mind. If my senses are happy with my environment, then I was able to sort of say to keep the depression away, right? So I was attacked financially, I was attacked mentally, I was attacked in every realm, financially, emotionally, whatever, in my circumstances. But what kept me going was my relationship with God. Like, despite what I faced, I was just like, well, it's not my fight to fight. He'll fight on my behalf. He'll make it okay. So my strength was renewed because of my relationship with him.
So the reason why, I had asked you to come in and have a chat is because, the other day we were talking and I was telling you about how I'm working and working and working and we sleep when we die and all of that, and I'm just trying to do everything as much as possible, and you were a little bit against that, and you're like, no, 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 it can't always be like that,
Yeah.
Do you think that our friends and family, society allows us to sometimes say, I'm not coping, I'm not doing okay, or I
Yeah.
think I made a mistake. I should have gone left, but I went right. Yeah, I've been acting like everything's fine, but
Yeah.
hello, everything is not okay. Do you think, our society allows people to 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 basically be vulnerable in that way and open up and admit that, man, no, guys, go rough. Like, I'm not coping. Tusa.
Society definitely doesn't allow us to be vulnerable. There's almost like this thing where it's like strength is depicted as anything but vulnerability, and I've had to learn through time that there is strength in vulnerability, and it's actually very courageous to be vulnerable. Easier said than done, but as far as it comes to society is concerned, you can't wait for society to give you permission on how to manage your mental health. Because for me, I had support. My mom came to stay with my son and I for 2 years. So even when I was freelancing, I was able to count on her to help me take care of my child. But because of my own subjectivity and sensibilities, I wasn't even able to ask her to help me. I just assumed that she would know how to help me. And it was so hard to utter the words. And so I really had to work on that. This was in 2018 when I had the biggest breakdown, and I was like, this is not working. I think I need to see someone. So I went to therapy, and only as a result of speaking to somebody about it and feeling safe to express how I really feel, then I was able to count on the people in my life to say, guys, help me. They were there. My sister's there, my mom, my nieces, but I was never able to say, this is what I needed to do. I don't know why,
Okay,
but there
okay.
was some sort of barrier. Hmm?
Just to come in there. So do you think that our friends and family are willing to help if we come out? So the problem is not that
Yeah.
they are not willing, it's that,
Mm-hmm.
we have been brought up in a way that you don't speak out when you're not okay.
Yeah.
And so
Because
automatically it just becomes a cycle. No one speaks out, so everybody assumes
exactly.
everybody is okay. But if
Yeah.
you did speak out, there would be
Yeah.
somebody willing to help and able to help. Is that what you're saying?
Ab- Absolutely. But for you to be able to ask for help, you need to feel safe.
Mm.
So, had you felt safe in the first place, then help me would have been easy to say, you know. So, more
But what
important
brings
than us just,
safety?
hmm? Sorry?
What brings that safety? That feeling of safety?
Um, like you said earlier, sometimes admitting, hey guys, gijile pause, and doing away with your pride
Mm.
sometimes helps, you know. But if you feel like, because families, man, black families, ke di gwaring, ke bo, hey man, wa mo itse o go ro yang, it's all those things. So if that is the
Ah.
culture that is
Mm.
perpetuated, and
Mm.
you don't even feel safe to be vulnerable to your family, then you probably
Mm.
need to work on cultivating the relationship that'll enable you to even ask for help from your family members. Because I find that also we don't come into the world conditioned. We pick up the conditioning as we go along. So as a child, it's easy to say, help me. But if you get the same sort of resistance from your childhood all the way to adulthood, by the time you're an adult, you sort of have an idea of how it's going to work out when you ask for help, which is why I think it's important to then use communication as a tool if you're able to, and say, guys, this is what's happening in my life, and for me, I was never able to use my voice. I was literally petrified of speaking, which is why I'm a writer, because then I can
Mm.
express myself. I'm very artistic and I'm very expressive, but when it came
Mm.
to my voice, oh my God, I was fearful, I was doubtful.
Mm.
So asking for help was the last
Mm.
thing on my agenda. So I just constantly hid. Do did so much. I'm on trying to find the balance these days. And
Mm.
produced so much work by like books and stuff, because for me, for a long time, I told myself that this is my therapy, until I eventually went to therapy, and I was busy with Somersaults, the manuscript for Somersaults in the Hailstorm in 2018, when I went to go see my therapist. And she was like, but do you see how this is not sustainable? You're not dealing
Mm.
with the issues that prevent you from living your best life. Instead, you're using your work as a tool to hide behind
Mm.
facing situations in your life that you need to face. So that's what I mean by
What
safety.
mm, mm. What is your greatest or that moment where you felt you were most vulnerable? Um, where it was like, wow, my whole inner part is opened up. I am exposed in this moment. Like,
Mhm.
what happened where you felt, oh my word,
Ooh, okay.
like, no, now I'm vulnerable.
No. It's hard to because I don't like to dwell on moment.
Mm.
I mean, I think my most vulnerable moments came from my therapy sessions, because
Mm.
that's when I would open up the most, and I knew that I could open up. I had the environment would allow me to be vulnerable. So I think my most vulnerable moments were then. But are you referring to like along my career path, or just
In
generally?
life, generally. So
No.
let me get this. So your most
Yeah.
vulnerable moments were when you were in therapy. Is it because that felt like a safe space?
Yeah.
for
Absolutely.
you.
Mm.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
do you recommend that we all go for therapy?
Mm-hmm. Highly, highly recommend. Yes, with a
And
quickness.
what have you taken? What have you taken from therapy? What have you taken from therapy? Because a lot of people look at therapy and they think, dilo tsa makgowa, it's for white people
Let
or
me
peoples with
contextualize
money.
why I say therapy. Let me
Mm,
contextualize. Let me put it into context why I say so, right?
mm,
So I've lost 4 family members. My brother,
mm,
Tumelo, passed away in 2001, right?
mm,
And I was in first year at Boston Media House. I didn't allow myself to feel anything because if I had, it would have been me coming to grips and coming to terms with the fact that he was no longer around, right? So
mm,
you throw yourself into your schoolwork and you carry on living life until fast forward 8 years later, your cousin passes away. Mpho passed away 2009. And the following year in 2010 was when I began realizing that there was this cycle of depression that was replaying itself every single year in my life until I dealt with it in 2018 when Aldrin died. And also my dad died in 2004. And I think he's the only one that I could come to terms with because I knew that he was ill. But when Aldrin
mm,
passed away in 2018, now imagine there's all this residue of pain that you haven't been expressing. That's what grief is. That's what, mourning somebody
mm,
is. It's literally
mm,
sitting in your
mm,
feelings of loss, of
mm,
fear, of trauma, of grief.
mm,
But because even after Mpho passed away, I literally went back to work back on that Monday. Like I threw myself into my work. And
mm,
like I say, that's why I said, like for me with writing, it removed me from my reality. I was able to create characters in different worlds and, come up with stories that remove me from my reality of having to sit in my feelings. So vulnerable. And I can tell you about 4 people that I lost and they were able to be vulnerable in those moments. It's a good picture of how
Tshego,
the world and how I
Tshego,
depict
sorry.
strength, Yes?
I was saying, yeah, I was saying, can you move around a little
I'm
bit?
here. Can
I
you hear
was
me?
losing you there a little bit.
I'm still
Yes, I
here.
can hear you. Sorry,
You're
you were
frozen
saying,
though.
hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool.
I can hear you.
You were just saying Tshego, so I thought there was a problem.
Yes, you can continue. You were saying,
Where should I pick up? Were you not able to hear me?
yeah, so you spoke about losing relatives, and then you spoke about Papa
Correct.
Naisi, that you could come to terms with it because he was ill, and then I lost you there.
Okay, cool. So in losing 2 siblings and my cousin, I
Mm,
carried on, especially in Tumelo, I carried on like it was like, it was okay. Like just go back to work. And so I just wanted to
mm,
tie it back up with your question of when did I ever feel vulnerable, most in my life. So what I was saying is that I didn't even allow myself to process those feelings. So from 2001, it's been pain, it's been loss, it's been grief, it's been trauma. And because I had told myself that if I bury myself in my work, if I, if, because also as a writer, coming up with stories, it's escapism. I create characters, I create worlds for them so I could literally avoid dealing with my reality in creating the work that I do, that is now what I do
mm,
for a living. And so that
mm,
residue and that pain and that hurt and that trauma and that loss, it doesn't go anywhere until you face it. So when you say to me,
Sure.
when was I able to be vulnerable? I couldn't even be vulnerable at those times because I thought to myself, if I keep working and if I distance myself from how I feel, I'll be okay. Until eventually in 2018, when Aldrin passed away and there was just no more running. I couldn't, what are you going to do? You can't keep avoiding sitting in your feelings and dealing with how you feel. And so grief has become a very integral part of my life. I respect it. When it knocks, I
Sure.
give it attention. And in as much as I work in a deadline-driven industry, I've now given myself permission to slow down. I've given myself permission to miss a deadline, especially now in lockdown. It means that gonna deliver 2 or 3 days after the deadline, then that's what it is because we're managing so much. And for me, my mental health is paramount. I have to going to therapy gave me the tools to deal with my emotions and my feelings of inadequacy and whatever, grief or whatever, loss, trauma, depression.
But why do you think
And
we
those
run
tools
away from
don't
that?
involve working. So if it means I must stop working to deal with them, that's what I do. Sorry, you were saying?
Sorry, I'm saying, why do you think we run away from our feelings, especially, feelings of inadequacy and just not measuring up and not being great enough, whatever it is, all those negative feelings. Why do you think we run away from dealing with that? Because, I mean, from what I've learned over the years is that if you don't deal with it, as you're saying, it comes back to bite you. It remains there.
Mm,
You have to deal with it
mm,
for it to go away and for you to be able to
mm,
manage it going forward,
mhm,
my pastor always used to say that if you sweep things the rag nje, especially in a marriage, later on that carpet,
mm.
that rag is
It's all
gonna
done.
come off, and
Yeah,
yeah, and then everything is gonna come up. So don't
yeah,
sweep anything under the carpet. Deal with it. Some of that that's
exactly.
pen all
Yeah.
uska
Easier
beg,
said than
don't put it
done,
away
though.
for another day. It's easier said. Yes, why do we run away? Why do we run away from facing that emotion of negativity?
I think it's because we aren't given the tools to deal with it. We're not equipped
Mm,
to handle pain. We're not equipped to
mm,
handle, feelings of overwhelming feelings, which is why
mm,
now I'm so adamant that I will stop what I'm doing and I will sit in that emotion.
mm.
I don't know, to me, like I think it's just like I don't know, like I think we just come from a culture of just get on with it, utaba shabu, like we're not given adequate tools in the home, in society, to handle challenges that require you to be vulnerable. You can handle any other
I-
challenge that's thrown your way, and that is depicted as strength. But when it comes to
mm,
challenges that you are facing in your emotions, mentally, it becomes difficult because you don't know how to,
mm,
because that requires vulnerability. And like I said earlier, it requires feeling safe. There's just a whole process behind it that allows you to be able to
mm,
open up,
mm,
perhaps you did in the past and you got hurt. So you begin to put your guard up, putting it back down is, it's going to hurt you. So you don't ever put it down again, you know.
mm.
Yeah, we're not given the
Is
tools to handle being vulnerable.
is vulnerability being weak?
Mm, you know the answer to this. No, of course not.
Mm, mm, mm.
Of course not. Takes courage to be
And
vulnerable.
do you think that we don't become vulnerable and open up because our parents as well didn't know how to handle it, and because they were also never in that space where they were allowed to express themselves. It's always
Yeah.
like, hey,
Exactly.
like everybody thinks if you cry or if you sulk or whatever, ubatla attention. And it's just like, no, leave the child. The child will be fine.
Yep.
After some time, you'll come out okay. That's how, growing up, our parents dealt with you being what they called attention seeker, or but
Difficult.
in actual fact, you were just expressing yourself. You were just
Yeah.
expressing how you were
Yeah.
feeling. And I suppose
Yeah.
the more you get shut down when you express yourself,
Mm.
the more you begin building a wall and actually feel like, oh, okay, that means that
Barely.
this is not cool.
Yeah.
People don't do that. You don't cry, you don't
Yeah.
express yourself. You put
Exactly.
your big girl
Yeah.
panties on and you get on with
Correct.
it until in
Mm.
your adult life, when you're like in your late 20s or whatever, going into 30, then it starts hitting you like a ton of bricks, and it's like
Yeah.
everything that you went through now
Yeah.
comes up. So you think it's a cycle, nah?
And
It's
and even that
tough, eh?
bravery to deal with it in your 20s or 30s, not
Mm.
everybody embraces the bravery to face it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
this is why we are where we are, because
Mm.
it takes a lot of bravery to all, because you also
And
have to admit your part in it, right? It
mm,
can't just be a
mm,
blame thing, because I
blame
really
game.
believe that our parents did our best, considering,
They did
I
their best.
mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Everybody's out here trying to raise good kids. Like, nobody has the intention of not raising good kids. But at some point, the onus has to be on you to deal with your mess and deal with your stuff and look yourself in the mirror. And not everybody has the courage to do so. And so people, we find ways around the pain as opposed to dealing with the pain.
Mm.
And this is why I say therapy. I mean, we said it like a little bit like in jest, but this is why I believe therapy is such a powerful tool, because it literally forced me to stop running and to deal with myself, you know?
And what pushed you to start therapy? When was it that
Ooh,
moment where you were like, yo, I need somebody, somebody
my
to
son.
step in and intervene. Cause
Yes, my son. He was 4 at the time, and I had an
mm,
outburst. This thing of not being able to ask for help, right? So
mm,
I had an outburst because I was under so much stress and pressure. And my mom was like, "Oof, what's going on?" And my son was like, "No, ma'am, we don't do that here. We don't shout. We
mm,
don't behave like this." And when that
mm,
happened, I looked at this little child. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta get my ass to therapy." I was literally called out
mm.
by a 4-year-old on my behavior. I was like, "Nah,
Wow.
nah,
Well,
no,
big ups
I
to Liano.
right." Leno is, guys. Hey, la motshameka la ngwano.
High
La
five.
motshamekela.
Wow. Not
I
many people.
literally stopped and
Yeah.
looked at him, and he was just like, "Nah, we don't." And that's how
Mm,
I raised him. Like, if you've got a problem, speak up. You don't throw tantrums. So he literally took everything that I had been teaching him and he threw it back at me. And that's when I was like, yo,
wow.
I get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And what are some of the key lessons you've taken from therapy, or
Mm.
um yeah, what have you learned from therapy and appreciate about it,
Oof.
um and have been able to implement, going forward? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my therapist, I first went to see her end of 2018, and then I saw her again just before lockdown this year. So when I
Mm-hmm.
first went to go see her, it's
Sure.
crazy. She gave me permission to slow down, to stop working. After I went to go see her, I didn't even open my laptop for about 2 months. And this is somebody who works as a freelance writer. Like, you need to write to make money, you know. And I literally, I just stopped. I was just like,
Sure.
I didn't have it in me anymore to keep going back to my work, you know. I had workshops all of November that I just didn't show up for. I ate, I slept.
Sounds like lockdown.
The little things, the usual things, you know. I lived, I partied because it was November and December, you know.
Sure.
And it's such a fear-driven industry because the industry shut down in December. So it's like, let me keep working, whatever I can keep working on to have money for January. Man, all that worrying wasn't getting me anyway. I literally shut everything down. And when I came back to it in January, this is the year just before we had the premiere for the series, for the single Diaries. This is beginning of last year in 2019, you know, and it just, I think it set the tone for my 2019 because I had the most beautiful year last year. It was like sunshine for the first time in 3 years. I literally felt good about myself. You know, it just changed. Just pay attention to yourself and the choices that you make on a daily basis. That's pretty much what therapy taught me. Be it sleeping well, be it eating, be it the work you say yes to, and if it aligns with your spirit and your purpose, literally, it just strengthened me to be able to rely on myself and the tools that I've had to learn through, you know, throughout my journey, you know. Yeah.
And have you found your purpose?
I don't know if it's a stagnant thing or a static thing. For the longest time, I would have been like, yes, because I was certain that it was writing, you know. But I'm open to newness. I'm open to evolution. I'm open to, you know, growth, you know, and if it means that it's something different, yeah, I don't know if it's any one thing. It might be many things, and I'm constantly searching for the things that make my soul sing, you know. If it makes my soul sing, I'm gonna stick around. I'm a sit around, I'm gonna sit in it and enjoy it, you know.
How would you like to be remembered?
Yeah, Kaikan. Ha ke hope ke sentse ke le teng. Remembered for what? Ask me in 40 years.
Come on, darling. You know that every single day of your life, you are doing something that is moving you towards that moment. So it's not just a thing of the future. It's not like you're saying that tomorrow kya tsamaya, but every day as you take a step, you are taking a step towards, you know, leaving your mark. Every step that you take on a daily basis, that's what I believe is a mark that you're making on earth. You know, I was telling somebody just today, I said, I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid to die. What I'm afraid of is to die having not completed that which I was created to do. So when I die, I want to make sure that whatever I came into earth with, when my fists were clenched, that I leave earth with my hands open, having released everything that I was created for. So I can die at any time, but in that moment, may I not have anything in me that I'm going back with that I was supposed to release. So every single day, I make sure that, you know what, I've done all that I could for that particular day, because it could be any day. I mean, you know what's been happening. Yes, we trust God, we live by faith, but anything can happen. So I truly believe that every single day is an opportunity to make a mark. So again, I ask you, my sister, how would you like to be remembered?
I think I want to be remembered for generations to come as the person who did something with the legacy that had been left for her. You know what I mean? Before, I would have been like, oh, I want to remember it for like writing books and producing movies. But now I'm just like, it's neither here nor there. I want to be remembered because when I think of my grandmother, and I think of like both my grandmothers, my paternal grandmother and my maternal grandmother, I literally am in awe of what they had to, go through for me to be able to be here to do what I do. So they've afforded me through their struggles the ability for me to live my dreams and write for a living and be a mom and be independent and make money and do all these things. So I think I want to pay it forward for future generations to come, if that makes sense. Like I want to be, when people say I stand on the shoulders of giants,
Can
I
you
want to be
not leave?
counted as a giant that future generations in my lineage are standing on. And they say, no matter what they do, whether they're engineers, whether they are architects, whether they are whatever, mothers, whatever they choose to do, I want to be remembered for the woman who paid it forward as far as my lineage and heritage is concerned. And they're able to say, yeah, I've got this woman in my lineage. And because she lived her dreams and her purpose, I'm able to do the same.
I wanted just to add there, as you're mentioning your grandmothers, please,
Yes.
please mention your mother as well, and the role that she's played in the lives of those around her. I mean, growing up, I still have memories, fond memories of her and her love and her light. And I think she passed that on to you as well, So please don't forget to mention that woman, okay?
Let me tell
That
you
woman
something
is
about my mama, girl.
amazing.
My mama
Yes.
is my best friend, okay? Like,
Okay.
if there's anybody that I miss in lockdown, it's my mom. I
Okay.
miss
Okay.
her like the whole day on the phone, when you speak about light, yeah.
Mm.
My mom is
And
totally that, for
And
sure.
obviously, with COVID and everything that's happening, it's such a blessing just to be able to have, a mom.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
know you lost your dad, but at least you still have a mom. You still have a parent. A lot of people have lost
Yo,
parents,
so grateful.
parents,
Yes.
like people are losing a lot of people, and
Yeah.
what a blessing it is to still have your mom. Um, we're gonna have to wrap it up, darling, because we're late. I've got your
Okay.
book, Three Sisters. Um, you've got a few publications out. I know you said there's another one that's coming out. What's the name of that quickly? And when can we
Sure.
expect it?
Okay, so I've got a book called Somersaults in the Hailstorm, which
Mhm.
I need to show it to you. I can't just tell you about it. Just give me a second.
Okay. Okay, we
Uh,
gotta wrap it. We gotta wrap it up, girl.
I know.
Yay! Congratulations.
So it's currently available. If you
Okay.
guys want to get copies, just hit me up on my social media and drop me an
Okay.
inbox. I'm just trying to figure out distribution at the moment, considering that it's COVID, but the book is here.
COVID, ne?
It's called Somersaults in the Hailstorm,
Wow.
and it's about three girls who've
Okay.
been friends from primary school, and they have to navigate their friendship in their 20s, as they start
Okay.
dating and about to get married and their careers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a fabulous
Okay,
book.
because we're late, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do a Q&A, but where can people
Okay.
find you on social media? If they want to hit you up to get the
Yeah.
book and any of your other
Yeah.
books, Three Sisters,
Yeah.
and your other book.
So on Facebook, it's Tshego Monaisa, author. Instagram, it's Tshego_Monaisa. Excuse me. And if you just inbox me, I'll be able to get you any of the books that you would like to buy.
My darling, it's been a pleasure. We were an hour late. It was tough, but it happened. I'm so grateful for you. You are a blessing. You are light. You are great. and I wish you nothing but God's blessing on your life.
Thank you,
May you
Jenny.
do great things, and
I
you
appreciate
definitely
you so
will
much.
be remembered in your lineage. Before we go, I just want you to say, be great, for if not you, then who?
Be great. For if then who?
Then who? Thank you so much to everybody who tuned
Thank you,
in.
Jenny. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you for your patience. Thank you so much. We are at it again next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. with the amazing songstress, Tshego Monaisa. She'll be joining us and we'll be talking about loss and dealing with it, and finding your purpose after enduring great loss. God bless you. Be great. For if not you, then who? My name is Melo. Good night.
Thank you, guys. Bye.